of my life.
So welcome to the Everyday Heroes podcast. I'm Philip Brady, and I'm delighted to be joined by my next guest, who maybe just what I do sometimes with this is I forget how to introduce the person and what my relationship to them is. But Gareth Molloy is a personal trainer, but I would also say a friend I would look up to and absolutely see as somebody inspiring and doing really good work, encouraging people to reach their potential. And I was just super excited to have you on. So Gareth Molloy, welcome to the Everyday Heroes podcast. You are really welcome.
Thank you for having me, mate. I appreciate it.
And just the one line on the podcast is I want to try and tell stories of people who you could be beside in the queue in Sainsbury's or Tesco and not realize how inspiring they are, and capture some of those stories so that people see the possibility and potentially think that they could actually do this for themselves. So Gareth, maybe just a little one-liner, two-liner. How would you introduce yourself? What's going on for you at the moment in your life?
Cool. So yeah, I'm a Gareth, obviously. So what I do at the minute, I'm a head coach at No Limits Fitness, which is a gym based in West Belfast. Probably the biggest gym in West Belfast, private coaching facility. So yeah, I'm a coach here. I also look after the team, make sure that they're kept to a good standard of coaching. And then I also run my own in-person and online fitness business as well, Gareth Molloy Fitness Nutrition. So I've been running that now from 2016. Yeah, and I'm also a kettlebell sport athlete. I compete in the pentathlon in kettlebells for the last 2 years now. So yeah, I'm kind of all set and ready to go for the World Championships in about 2 to 3 weeks. So yeah, I'm training away for that at the minute. So that's at the minute, it's pretty full on into this crazy period into Christmas. So yeah, it's exciting though. Love it. Wouldn't be doing anything else.
Yeah. And tell us about, so you started out on this journey many moons ago.
Yes.
Tell us about that kind of adventure or where it started. So what was that kind of, this is for me, this is the path ahead that I want to embark on?
Yeah. So to be honest, for me, it was probably when I was really young, when I was a kid, like my dad was military, growing up, and he worked as a physio in the military. So as kids, me and my sister would have always been in gyms as kids, just seeing this big playground of people running around on treadmills, just doing crazy stuff. But we hadn't a clue what was going on. We were just happy to be there and mess around. But I think just seeing my dad take sessions and help people in a rehab kind of aspect was pretty cool. I think that always kind of stayed with me. And then kind of just seeing that as a small child and growing up with that until I was 10, 11, 12, kind of laid the path for me to an extent. And I think it's always stayed with me, as I say. So from school, went into tech, into college, studied sports science, didn't do university, and kind of dabbled my feet in it a little bit and was nah, not liking it. I think that's the more I thought about a degree, the more I thought this isn't really what I want to do. I don't need a degree to kind of go the direction that I wanted to go in. And the more I thought about it, this is a waste of time, waste of money. I was get me out of here. So I was working in the Leisureplex in Lisbon at the time as a lifeguard. So that's the perfect kind of student job. It's easy money. You just sit there and watch people swim all day.
People in bathing suits.
Watch people in bathing suits all day. Yeah. So I blew your whistle every now and again to make sure you're still awake. That was really the height of it. But when I came back from university for my very small stint there, I transitioned into the gym in the Leisureplex. So the gym kind of got a massive revamp. It turned into Vitality. I think it was around 2014 or 15. And so they needed more staff. So I kind of put my name forward for a health and fitness officer, which sounds very fancy, but it was just really a fitness instructor. So that was really my first kind of step into the fitness industry, and, into me kind of taking sessions, gaining some qualifications, doing kettlebells and, different suspension training things, and got my level 2 and dabbled in there. And then really while I was in that position, taking kettlebell sessions, taking circuit sessions, just generally helping people on the gym floor. I really got a sense of flip me, this is what I enjoy. This doesn't feel like work. When I'm doing this, this is awesome. Now, obviously when it came to the cleaning treadmills every bloody 30 minutes, that was something I really didn't enjoy. But yeah, the actual coaching itself, helping people, that's where I kind of felt I feel awesome here. And then getting such good feedback from, you know, the members of the gym and saying that they love my sessions. I was like, fucking hell, I think I found it here. I think I've cracked the nut. I think this is what I'm going to do, you know, because at that time, like starting, I still wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And, you know, you were getting some, you know, ears from the parents and, you know, your family of like, proper job, get a proper job, all that good stuff. So I think once I found that, it was good. And then I got an opportunity, you know, in about 2016 from Daniel McCaffrey and Paul Murray, who Paul Murray runs Primal Strength and Movement in Lisbon. So they were running, Paul was working in a gym called Iron Fit at the time, down in Titanic Quarter. And then he kind of transitioned away to open his own gym, and him and Dan kind of came together to open up Primal Strength and Movement. So I think me and Dan had worked together in the gym in Lisbon for about a year. And me and him taking sessions together. I think he saw that I had, you know, a good kind of influence on people, and, you know, seeing the presence that I had in taking sessions, and give me an opportunity in Primal. And at that time, I wasn't really sure like what it was about. I was like, a private training facility? I was like, what the fuck is that? Like, all I really knew was commercial gyms, like Pure Gyms and the Leisureplex, and, you know, seeing this kind of small hub of a few rigs and kettlebells. I'm like, fucking hell, where's the machines? I was like, where's the leg press? Like, what's going on? So it was interesting. I was excited, but I was like, kind of like, fuck, dude, this is a weird opportunity. I don't really know how to feel about this. And I went in as an intern for about 12 weeks. And really from there, like, never looked back. It was completely different. It was a new modality of training that I was looking at. It was very much like movement based, kind of like Ido Portal style type things, and a lot of calisthenics and kettlebell work. And that's really where the love for kettlebells kind of happened as well. Yeah, and then from there, like, I kind of just drifted away from the Leisureplex, because, you know, when I was working, I was actually just reading books and different things, and I was meant to be, you know, obviously doing my job, but I was too invested in trying to learn and all these things that I was getting taught. And I was like, this is amazing. But again, like, management kind of found out that I was not doing my job too often, and then eventually got suspended from the Leisureplex, the tail end of Christmas, which then kind of led to me jumping, had to go all in Primal, sorry. So yeah, like, from then, like, you could probably say like the rest is history. And then stayed in Primal for about 2.5 years, and then transitioned from there, did my own thing for a while, and then came into No Limits Fitness at about 2018. Yeah, about 2018. And then, yeah, from there, just been going from strength to strength. So it's been a crazy journey. Even like saying that now, I'm like, flip me, it's been a wild ride, but it's, you know, I think you can kind of see the stepping stones there. And I think everything's kind of happened, you know, for a particular reason, you know. And again, at the time, like, when I got suspended, it was like November time. So Christmas was coming up. I had no personal clients in Primal, and I was like, oh shit, this is gonna be grim here. I have no income. Like, I was only kind of working casual as well, so I was getting paid on a weekly basis. So they could just go, see you later. Yeah, so it was a bit grim, and I had that little bit of a shock for a few days of like, this is the end of the world. What am I gonna do? And then, you know, a pep talk from Paul and Dan to put me in the right direction. So yeah, and then it's really been up to now, really.
And maybe two questions. So one is, I think people forget that this stuff doesn't always feel like work.
Yeah.
So when you were in work, you were doing other stuff that energized you, but people could have seen that as you're working on something. And it's like, no. This is literally topping up my cup.
Yes, that's exactly what it was. Because it was so new and so fresh, and it was a new method of, you know, the fitness industry that I had never seen before. Because all I'd really seen was, you know, 3 sets of 10, chest day, back day, leg day. That was it. You know, that's the only knowledge I had. And, you know, like, whipping together a circuit that had really no meaning. It was just like, let's do this and just bring the energy. So when I was, you know, Paul Murray gave me so many kind of elements and books and, you know, like memberships that he had paid for, but he was like, take this, learn it, do it. And I was like, amazing. So I was learning all this stuff, and it was so new, and I was so heavily invested into it that, like, now looking back, I'm like, I don't really give a fuck. But, you know, it led me away from doing my job in the Leisureplex, because it was, you know, it was all for a good reason, you know. And it's led me to kind of be kind of where I am today with my, you know, the knowledge that I've gained from that, and, you know, the coach that I am today. So it's been awesome.
And Tony Robbins says, if you want to take the island, burn the boats, so you've no retreat. So
Yes.
that was nearly taken from you as well. But that can feel like you have to do what you were doing. But it sounds like, from what had happened before, it was I choose to, or I get to.
Yes, yes, 100%. And it was weird because it was always something that was in my head of like, at some point, I'm gonna have to leave the Leisureplex and go all in primal. In my head, I was like, that is the right decision. That's what I want to do. But then, I've wrote a note here, like that was the fear that was holding me back, was the fear of, what if it goes wrong? What if I don't get any clients? Like, it's comfortable here. I get paid weekly here to take a kettlebell class, which is easy with a few people, like clean some machines. I can go hide every half an hour in the staff room and get paid for it. And in my head at that time, I was only like, 18, 19, 20 odd. And in my head, I was like, this is the easy option. This is great. This is comfortable, getting paid weekly and getting paid a decent wage for my age. And then having primal on the side. But then I guess always that thing, that burning kind of voice in your being like, you're going to have to go all in soon. You're going to have to do it. And then when that opportunity was, I say it's an opportunity now. At the time it wasn't. It was like, oh, fuck, I've got this taken away from me. Like, this is the end of the world. So now I'm almost like grateful for, being suspended and having the opportunity to go in and primal, because again, if it hadn't, like, who knows, I could probably still be in the Leisureplex right now, like still working away in there, still getting an easy buck. So
unaware of what was available to you.
Yes, definitely.
And when you were at that point, Gareth, like, so you didn't get the opportunity to hesitate, but you had probably been hesitating for a period of time.
Yeah.
Does that sound about right? Like, there is that kind of hesitation to back yourself, to move forward, to go all in, or just more in on you in that space?
Yeah. So I was going all in on myself in terms of like learning everything I could. And every experiment I had, I was just like invested in like these books that were given to me from like, old Russian powerlifters like Pavel and things like that. And I was like, it's amazing. But again, like that, when it came to like, right, I'm learning this stuff. This is it. This is what I want to do. Like, primal's amazing. It's what I want to work at. I'm teaching, small groups how to do these cool things. I'm teaching people skills. I have free reign of my programming. I can actually get one-to-one clients and charge kind of whatever I want. I can do group training. This is it. But then there's always that, like, again, that voice of like, but it's comfortable here, but it's comfortable in the Leisureplex. But you've been doing this, it's less risky. Like, just stay here. It's fine. So it was always that kind of pulling and pushing for, it was probably about a good 5-month period of being in primal and kind of being in the Leisureplex. It was about 5 or 6 months where I was kind of like torn of like, do I just leave? What do I do? And I just kept it going. And as I say, at the time when the suspension happened, it was just a case of like, in my head at the time, it was shit. But then the more I thought about it, it was like, you know what, this is an opportunity. And it took speaking to the likes of Dan and Paul once it happened was, I think Paul he's very, if you know Paul, he's very abrupt, very to the point. Which is great. And he was like, as soon as I said, mate, I've been suspended from the Leisureplex, been suspended. It's like, fuck, the fuck am I going to do? And he just goes, you know what to fucking do? He's like, it's time to go. It's time to go all in. And that's all he said. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. And then same with Dan, like Dan kind of taught me a lot more about the business side of things and, right, what's missing in terms of your earnings? Like, what do you need to get to break that line? And be safe type thing with your income. And then once I worked that out, found the kind of gap and then just closed it through time. And it was a crazy period, but looking back, it was pretty awesome, because I had a nice friends of group, a lot of mutual friends. So as soon as it came available that I was doing my own thing, I got a lot of people that were contacted, and it was class. It was, looking back, I'm very grateful for the guys that took a chance with me as a new PT. Because it can be a tough gig, if you don't have a big following or you're not like known in the community. It can be tough to get going. So I am like, looking back, I'm like, flip me, like, then people put their faith in me at the start and to stay with me for a good while as well. So yeah, it's been mad.
And so Dan and Paul were those kind of supporters or promoters of you, in your opinion of yourself, you could say, as in that you're good enough to do it and you can. Were there any other kind of people along the way like that were, or how did you find them? Because it's often a thing of they're there, but sometimes we forget actually there's sometimes a seeking that guide or mentor as well.
Yeah. So I knew Dan always had a gym. So before he was in the Kennedy, he had another gym on the Glen Road. And because he was like working about 4 jobs at a time, so he was like in that Leisureplex. he was doing swim teaching. He was coaching the Glen Road, like, 2 sessions a day or something, the morning, the evening. And I would always he would always come in and talk about it. And if we were on shift together, he'd always be like, guess what we're doing? I've got this app and we're like booking sessions and we're doing this and we're doing that. And I'm like, that is fucking awesome. I was like, that's class. And I actually remember like me and him were cleaning the toilets in the changing rooms one night. And I remember this so clearly. And we were just chatting away and he was like, what are you going to do after university? What are we going to do when you finish? And I said, I'm going to come work for you. And I remember that. And I was like, mate, when I'm done, I was like, I want a job at No Limits and I want to do what you do. I want to help him because it's fucking awesome. And he was like, all right, cool. But at that time, I think he had like Owen, who was like only like he was a little pimsqueak at the time, little 16-year-old running around with his hands in his pockets all night. So it was, and then obviously, from that, he had kind of met up with Paul through a few workshops and then they started speaking and Paul said he's going to open a gym and Dan said he would go into it with him. So then obviously I think it maybe had stuck with Dan that I had asked for this opportunity or had mentioned an opportunity to work with him and then had kind of put me in with Paul into Primal. And that's really where it all originated from. So, which was good because as much as, like in terms of a coaching aspect, like Paul has put in the work, the reps over the years, like he's spent, I don't know how much on courses and, he's got a brilliant mindset when it comes to coaching. So in terms of them coaching skills, like he taught me a shit ton. And that's kind of like led me, as I say, to who I am today as a coach. But when it comes to more like the business kind of side of things and looking at things, from a bird's eye view of like, right now you're here, but where does 3, 4, 5 years go? That's where Dan massively helped, like hugely. So the two of them had like a different kind of a bit of a contrasting role. Because Dan would say like he's not the best coach in the world, but A, he brings energy, and B, like in terms of like a structured kind of business kind of plan, like he knows that stuff inside out, as is evident from what he's created here at No Limits. So it's to have them two like in my corner was epic because I had like bits and bobs of everything.
Well, and I was talking to Lenny about this at the weekend. We were having breakfast on Saturday morning, and I was saying the contrast is really helpful. It's not to learn and only learn, which I do. It's to act in the world and structure a plan that will actually take you forward. So there's a benefit to both, but a balance of both is actually the optimal. And you can get stuck in books and never do, or you can do and do and do and be running in the wrong direction, misinformed and not actually releasing some of the potential. So there's a balance of the two, but it sounds like you had one on either side, you could say, in a way, and that helped you then craft the balanced point between the two.
Yes, 100%. And I think it was like, again, like reflecting now. At the time, it was kind of hard to like notice that. But as I say, like as you reflect and look back, it is a case of, having one person there. If I had any issues with programming or like this client is struggling to stick to this program, like what am I doing wrong? And, sometimes reports are very abrupt, like they're full of shit. But like sometimes like people sometimes need to hear that. Sometimes people need a hug. Sometimes people need a quick kick up the arse. So, learning them kind of like person to person skills as well was very cool and very interesting because in my head, it was all about like, write a program. This person will do it. We get paid. They get a result, happy days, where reality is it's not that easy. If it was, I think everyone would be PTs, but there's a lot more to it than that. And I think, learning the whole mindset around training and adherence, from Paul was really interesting, along with them kind of coaching skills and barbell skills, kettlebell body weight, like that has, been the foundation of my coaching now since I started. And as I say, like having that the other side of the fitness business. So like fitness and business, having the two was, again, I'm extremely lucky to have that because not everyone starting in the industry will have two such big players in their corner. And as well as that, like it was, as I say, like in terms of supporters, like I have to say about like Kaylee, my girlfriend as well, like she was huge because, when I was like, you always go through that period of change where, going into the fitness industry, it's a very daunting thing. And sometimes you're thinking of, I'm missing something here. Like this can't be what it's all cracked up to be. Like that, you don't feel you have your system on board. You go into comparison syndrome very, very quickly as well. You start looking at what other like coaches who have been in the business for years are doing, who are 4, 5, 6 years ahead of where you are. And you put yourself under a lot of pressure. And, like, thanks to her, like, she was there. If I was having a little bit of a mental breakdown one day of like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, what is going on here? Like, she was always there to be like, look, this is part of the journey. Like, she's very like good in that sense of going, this is all meant to be. It's fine. Like the reason you're struggling right now is because you're not asking the right questions, so who do you need to ask? She just made everything very, very, very simple and was very calm, whenever I was, struggling, on a daily or a weekly basis. So have to shout her out today, because if she doesn't hear her name, she'll probably lose her mind.
I love you, Katie. Katie as well, if Katie's listening.
Like, would it mention me?
Yeah, please. I want to shout out.
Yeah,
But what I think, just to go back a little bit and maybe just nearly, because that'll flow us forward as well, is I think what happens, Gareth, a lot is when you do make or have to make a decision to commit to yourself and back yourself and take action on it, and you meet people along the way and all that kind of stuff, the energy it unleashes is incredible. Mm-hmm. But what I think people forget is then that energy then meets this wall of sometimes things are hard.
Yeah.
And you nearly need to recommit to the journey. Right.
Yes.
So what were some of those kind of difficult times or walls that you had to meet in yourself or in like the world that you had to kind of continue forward?
Yeah. So it's cool. I looked at this question yesterday, and this took me the longest to kind of think about this. And I wrote down 3 things. So I wrote down fear of failure, and like I fear of failure, and also like tied in with there is like criticism from, my kind of like circle, my kind of friend group to an extent, who like the PT world was very kind of alien for them. Or I was like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, why are you always on Instagram? Why are you always on Facebook? Like, what the hell's going on? Like, why are you promoting yourself? Because I'd never seen that before. And it kind of looked very like influency type thing, which again, sometimes when PTs try to promote themselves, it can come across that way, but again, it needs to be done. So it was having that fear of failure. Like, what if this doesn't work out? What if I write a program and it's an absolute flop? What if I don't get this person a result? And I had to change my mindset massively of like, but what if it works? So that was a huge thing there that took again, it still happens today. Like I still go of like, this isn't gonna work. Like even the guys that we spoke about before in the TSC, like when I wrote the program, it was like, fuck, is that gonna work? Jesus Christ. Like, even though, usually it's tried and tested before, but you're like, fuck, are these people gonna stick to this? Is this gonna work? Is this gonna get a result? Like these people are putting their faith and their trust in me to do this. Can I get them the result? So fear of failure was massive. And I think that's kind of what keeps people comfortable quite a lot. And that, again, going back to the Leisureplex, like that was the big thing of like, what if I become a PT and I am a flop and it doesn't work? And, you hear so many, stories of the average lifespan of a PT is 18 months and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, I don't want to be that statistic. I want to be, the better statistic in that respect. A second kind of thing there was like the beliefs instilled by parents. So this is something that, obviously growing up, again, a lot of people have it, and it could be like generational thing of, get a proper job. Like this was huge. So that was always in the back of my mind as well. Like whenever I was in the Leisureplex as a casual worker, again, I wasn't even contracted. I was just casual. I just came in as they need me. Luckily I got, really decent hours because the staff was relatively short. So I was lucky there, but you always had that kind of chirping in your ear of, here that there's a the fire service are recruiting. Why don't you do that? That's a good job, good career that. Or police are recruiting. That's good career that. Do that. Or it could be anything else, like get a trade. Like my dad was massive and say, get a trade, new trade, electrician, spark, and I'm like, fuck that. I was like, that's the last thing I want to fucking do. Bored tears at me. So, but that was over my head. I was like, is a PT a proper job? I was like, fucking hell, right? Is that something is that a career? And I'm like, fucking hell, I don't know if it is.
Gareth, it's not just chirping, it's judging.
Yes. Well, that's it. Yeah.
Right. And I think it 100%. So in my coaching, I see this show up so much that the judgment of good or bad holds back so much potential.
Yes.
And Rumi, who's one of my favorite kind of poets or kind of people to quote, he's a Sufi poet. He has a quote. It's like, beyond good and bad, there's a field. I'll meet you there.
Yeah.
So it's like when we move past this judgment that we inherit, and we not just inherit from family, but we inherit from society, I could say.
Yeah, 100%.
When we get past that, we'll actually be in an all right place, and we'll just make progress and do good things to help people.
Yeah. But that's it. And that's kind of where I am now, which is good. And as I say, like it had to go through that little kind of like that period of like, again, that kind of pushing and pulling, like, no, this is what I want to do. But then it's like, no, but you need a proper job. like this isn't a career. Like this is gonna have a use by date, you know, like don't do this. And as you say, like it was inherited is a great word. Like it was inherited, you know, because obviously growing up with mom working 9 to 5, dad working, you know, different jobs, different shifts, whatever as well. Like it was always something like, right, okay, I need to clock in, I need to clock out, you know, like I need to have a boss, I need to have this. And like being my own boss is always like something that was like, it's fucking alien. Now that's what's weird. Like, no, I can't do that. Even though there's so much evidence out there of like people that do it on a daily basis, and you know, you watch the likes of, you know, let's say Dragon's Den, where someone comes in with a great idea and they need a bit of backing to make this idea soar, and it's like, let me like it's possible. You know, people can do this. So you know, over time, it's taken in that evidence that, you know, this is possible, and seeing, like, looking at people's stories like myself, like yourself, and other people that, you know, give you a little bit of inspiration of like they went from, you know, nothing, they found something they enjoyed doing, they created some sort of product or some sort of branding, and then they soared, you know. And I think just instilling that belief behind it is why people become successful, and they love what they do instead of waking up dreading a Monday, or their Sundays are just spent wallowing like, oh my God, it's Sunday, it's Monday tomorrow, which, you know, there's no way to live, to be honest. But again, like it's, for me, it was reflecting and looking at them people that were doing that to give me evidence of like, this is fucking possible. Like this is a career. And I think now, again, my mum and dad, I'm 29 years old, like mum and dad are pretty set now. Like, okay, like he's got his shit together. He's got this. This is cool. I don't need to pester him anymore about getting a real job. He's all right. Yeah. But I think, and then the last one there, I wrote there is actually confidence and abilities, which again is something, even like, you know, the last few years is something that I have struggled with is, and again, we said there, it all comes back to reflection. You know, sometimes when you're lacking like conviction in a certain, you know, element of your work, having reflecting, which has been massive for me the past few years, of going like, I achieved this, and I got this person this result, and I got this group this result, and I did this and we did that, and as a team in No Limits we did this and we did that, and it's like, fucking hell, like we're capable of so much more than we think. And I think having that reflection process, because so many of us are just on this like blinkers on going forward, that we don't take the time to go like, hang on, like what actually worked, why did it work, what were the lessons from that, and then using that evidence to, you know, propel you going forward. And for me, like working with Paul Moore for the last few years as well has really helped in that respect of giving me that confidence to go like, you know, I'm fucking good at what I do, and like here's the evidence why this is it. And I think for a lot of people, like they can, I'm constantly kind of like badgering clients at the minute when they say, I'm not good enough, I'm not this, I'm not that. I'm like, but look at what you've done. Like, look at all this cool stuff. Like, this is amazing. Look at this evidence. Like, I'm not making this shit up. Like, you've done it.
And good enough or not good enough is just a story.
That's it.
And I think it's what I think people shy away from confidence about is they don't want to come across as arrogant or cocky. Yes. So then putting themselves down feels better than that. So then you never feel good about yourself. So that's not the alternative. There's a better option. I think it's confidence is a big thing.
100%. I think, as you say, like confidence comes from like evidence as well, evidence that you've done these things, and you know it's a true story. Whereas like, you know, people when they don't kind of reflect and they don't review and they don't give themselves these opportunities to have more confidence, then you know it's a wonder why people kind of walk around, they're like, oh, I don't feel good, you know, I have no confidence. They just, as you say, like tell themselves this story that they're not confident. Whereas if they just take the time to look back of, you know, get the smallest thing to just help them moving forward. It's something I'm massive at the minute with a lot of guys that I coach is, you know, if they have more confidence within themselves, they would be the completely different person, not just in the gym, but also like outside. You know, they're like with their kids. Like, I'm sure kids don't want to see their mums and dads like wallowing every day, like, I'm not good enough, I'm not this, I'm not that. Like, they want to see their parents like kicking ass, like, you know. And I think it's an important thing to do for everyone, just to have that bit more kind of grit, determination when it comes to challenges and obstacles that are going to come, you know.
And when you were in those kind of difficult times and difficult moments, what was it that kind of helped you, and what like pulled you forward? So what do you focus on, and how do you support yourself in those times? You mentioned about Kaylee and different people around you as well, but like internally, what do you lean on?
Yeah. So for me, like books helped a lot, massively. And one book that I read, the Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck by Mark Manson, that was really the first like self-development book that I really like stuck with. And like I listened to it and I read it. And what it taught me was like such a vast amount of like insights into like, this is why I think this way, and this is why this happens, and this has come from this thought or feeling so many years ago that's lets me here. So, and you're like the negative feedback loops, like I'm angry, but I'm angry at being angry, so it makes me angrier. And you know, there's so many like things in there that I was like, holy shit, like every chapter was just like bombs, and I was like, wow, this is insane. So I would always kind of reflect on that, and I have a saved bookmark in my computer where it goes to all the kind of like best points from the book. Sometimes I just go on, and if I'm feeling a little bit like fucking hell, like, you know, a little bit down or a little bit, you know, sometimes my energy's off, like I would just quickly just flick through and have a little read of like some of the best parts from the book that, you know, someone's hand selected. And it does give that little bit of a, you know, review on your thoughts, like why am I thinking this way, what's happened, like what's led to this point, why am I feeling like this, and what can I do, like, you know, almost having like an energy topping up buffet, shall we call it, where like I can take things and go like, this is going to change my state, this is going to increase my energy, this is going to help me to take this session with a bit more conviction, a bit more energy, and this is going to just raise my game. And for the most part, it's like with Sansa, my dog, like it can be something as simple as taking her for a walk. Like that's it. I'm putting something good in my ears, you know, and I think it's what we like input can help change the state and help me kind of get out of that little kind of staleness that I can be in sometimes. So books helped a lot. You know, like thinking back as well, like, you know, I had a very supportive environment. Like the only person that would ever hold me back was me. Like I spoke about, like Haley, Dan, Paul, they were the three people like in my circle at that time that like really helped me develop. And they were the three people that I spent most of my time with. As well as obviously the clients as well who I'm trying to help. So, you know, seeing them win gave me an extra boost as well. And there's so many people that you bounce off, like different people on different journeys, and hearing, you know, how people have came from, like even like coaching, this sounds crazy, but even coaching people as like amputees and like people with terminal cancer. Like I'm like, holy fuck, it just makes you think about like where you are, like, and on what you're doing a pretty different way, you know, of like, as you say, like we get to do this, like you get to train, like we get to coach every day and do what we love to do. And that really, in terms of like being grateful for like what I'm doing and to change my state, I'm like, fucking hell, like I'm so lucky to do what I do. Like it's insane. And I say lucky, but I've kind of obviously I've carved this path myself to an extent. It hasn't been a bit, maybe a little bit of luck in there, but it's been great. Yeah. So I think books massively, like my environment of where I was. And then for me, like when I'm stuck in that stale kind of mindset or my energy is low, I just have like 4 or 5 things which I can go to that'll just change my state. Usually it's take the dog for a walk, put in some good music in, or listen to a good podcast. Sometimes it can be going to a good coffee shop, having a nice coffee and just chilling. Sometimes it can just be going in the car and just blasting some music, some happy music. Like and again, like it's nothing special. Do you know what I mean? It's nothing like I'm not sitting and lighting 1,000 candles and I'm, you know, bloody sitting there for an hour meditating. It's something that can be so simple. I think everyone can take heed of that as well. Like Paul Moore, I got it from Paul Moore. He calls it a happy buffet. Yeah. That whenever you're feeling a little bit shit or down in the dumps, it's just choosing one thing to change your state. And it can be as simple as that. It's just change the emotion.
And happy birthday, Sansa, right?
Yes, 7 years old. My child.
So sweet.
Big black child.
Yeah, so sweet.
Yeah.
She's a special dog.
Yeah, no, she is. She honestly, like, it's mad thinking back. Like 7 years is flown in. And it's crazy. I think, like we were saying before there, like people that aren't dog people just don't get it. Like they don't get the connection that you have with this dog. Like it's crazy. Like it is crazy. And like she does, like every time I see her, like a dog, no matter if you're going for 10 minutes or 10 hours or 10 days, like your dog will always be happy to see you no matter what. You could be in the shittest mood ever, like have the shittest day, and you'll come into the house and like she's there like, oh my God, you're fucking home. She's losing her mind. They're like, I don't care that I've, you know, lost money or done that. Like I'm happy to see you.
I've learned more from having Elvis than hundreds, probably 1,000 books.
100%.
It's just
100%.
insane. And we'll talk about open hearts and closed hearts another time over a coffee, maybe.
Yes.
And how he's taught me about that, because it's literally, he embodied it yesterday and I was filled with inspiration.
Yeah.
It's deeper than we probably have time for today, but we can get into it at some point.
Yeah, 100%.
Tell me about some of those lessons then that stand out to you as well, because that sometimes comes from challenges. And I think people don't realize good can come from difficult.
Mm-hmm.
What were some of those that kind of stand out to you on your journey?
So I think, as I say, like reflection at the minute is a big thing. And like taking the time to look back. And I think that's a huge thing. Like coming up against like challenges, if I felt stuck or feeling like I'm kind of falling out with the industry, I always like resort to reflecting, looking back to all the people that I've helped. So like, again, like we said before, like looking at evidence of where you've done good or where I've been kind of successful at my job and what I do. And, you know, sometimes again, we fail to do this. We get like, you know, one person doesn't get the result that we intended. You get maybe one bad review or whatever it is, and that's all you focus on. You get one criticism and you're like, fuck, I'm the world's worst coach. This is awful. Like, what am I doing with myself? I should have got a proper job. Fuck's sake. I should have joined the fire service.
Yeah.
You know, whereas, you know, if you look back and, you know, this is probably an analogy that you've probably heard before, but, you know, looking back at all the good that you've done, obviously we're always going to pay attention to the negative, which is fine. But again, using that as an area to improve on, maybe good, looking at it as an opportunity, which is, again, it's hard to kind of, sometimes if you are a little bit like touchy with that, like it's hard to do. But I think over time I've been like, okay, like you've said this is something I missed out on. Like, thank you for that opportunity. I'm going to make sure that improves from now on, which has happened over the years. And I think for any coach or personal trainer, you ask for criticism, like don't be offended that you got criticism, like be thankful for it, because ultimately it's going to make your service and product a hell of a lot better. And yeah, like just reflecting and looking at like over the years, like, you know, I've been in this industry now since 2016 and looking back at all the people that, you know, you've helped, the results you've got, like even just flicking through Instagram and looking at your results of like, holy shit. Because again, as coaches, like it's marketing, we have to post them, but also for me, they're a reflective tool to be like, holy shit, I've actually helped a lot of people, like not just in the gym, but likely outside the gym as well, in terms of, you know, getting new jobs, you know, even as much as like helping people lose weight to help, you know, like with an IVF treatment or anything like that, which is massive, you know, or someone that has been scared of gyms for, you know, 10, 20 years, like helping them come in and see the gym in a different light, that isn't this big shiny place with mirrors everywhere, that it is just a place where you come to be a little bit better, you know. And like looking at that, like I'm reflecting on that has been huge for me, because I'm like, you know what, I'm actually all right, I'm actually doing a good job, I'm cool. Like I've got evidence here that I'm actually probably better than I think I am. And then use that evidence again moving forward. And, you know, if you come up with a new client who's a little bit sticky, then it's like, you know, using the evidence of, remember I had that really sticky bit there and they were really tough. Here are the tools that I used to help that person, you know, moving forward. And that's, for me, like that's a huge thing. It's just reflecting on the good that I've done and then using that as like ammunition to move forward.
I think sometimes what it can feel like in your head is more negative. And
Mm.
even sometimes it's just helpful to have it balanced.
Yeah.
That you don't ignore that there's good. Typically your brain will be wired for negativity, for survival, but just balance it more.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be only positive. Nobody thinks only positive.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right? Just balance it a little bit.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's the thing.
That's it. Yeah. And I think it's just changing your mindset on the bad, as it's not actually bad. It's, you know, it's opportunities. It's feedback for you to get better, you know, which again, people are scared to give criticism, but some people are actually like completely fine with giving it. Yeah. And sometimes even if like with programs and no limits, and, you know, there's some people will ask for criticism on programming and on just their general feedback at the gym, because we know that they're going to give really good criticism on how to improve our product. And we're like, we're happy to take it. Like, we're like, thank you, this is great. Like, whereas, you know, in the past, like if we read criticism, especially at the start, you've been like, there's nothing wrong with this. This is the perfect program. Are you crazy? you don't know what you're talking about, you're an idiot, you know, whereas now we're like, thank you, cool, like we're going to take this on board and we're going to make sure that this is better, you know. So I think it's huge, and not taking it to heart is a big thing. Definitely.
Any others that stand out?
I think that's for me at the minute, like that's huge. Like, I don't like to overcomplicate it and have anything too fancy. Like for me, it is that time to just sit. And if I'm feeling stuck and I'm feeling like I'm, you know, like in this weird headspace of like, fucking hell, like what am I doing? Like, you know, what is it going forward? You know, it's looking back at the people that I love to help, even if I'm kind of like stuck on like who exactly is I want to help. You know, we talk about a niche in the fitness industry. Like, I don't really like to have a niche, because I think like I can help. I think as a coach, if we can have a good generalized approach with every different person that you're gonna get, you know, like from women that want to build strength, women that want to lose weight, guys that want to build strength, guys that want to lose weight, like say people with like amputees, you know, people that have like very morbid obese people, you know, people with disabilities, you know, you've got to be ready and able to help anyone. So I think, you know, looking back and ensuring that I am a good, well-rounded coach and I can help a variety of people is always good. So it is, yeah, the reflective process for me is huge. It's something that just gives me evidence, really, moving forward, that I'm like, I'm doing a good job. I'm all right. Yeah. Could be worse.
The 2016 or before that version of you going home to your parents and them saying, get a pensionable job, join the fire service, the police service. When you go home now, who do you return as differently?
So I probably return home as the guy that's just kind of living, I would say living very much in the moment. Like I'm kind of being present. And that's one thing I've like really learned the last few years, is like not kind of worrying too much about them types of things. Whereas again, it is inherited of like, gotta get a pension when you retire. And I'm like, I'm fucking 25 years old. Like, why am I worried about a pension? Like, Jesus, like flip me. Whereas now, like I'm very much like when I come home or even during the day, like one thing I journal is like, just be present. Like, don't worry about what's going to happen later on the day. Don't worry about what's happening tomorrow or the weekend or the week after that. Like, just if I'm taking a client, like I'm with them, I'm thinking about nothing else. When I come home from coaching, I'm home from coaching. One thing that helps me kind of really be present when I come home, if I'm on a late night, is strangely cooking. It's weird. I get like a real, like, it's like a weird, like meditation. Like I just forget about everything. And if I'm cooking anything, like I'm there, like there's nothing else that's distracting me, you know, which is cool. It's a nice way to kind of like switch off and unwind, but being fully present in what I'm doing and what I'm cooking is huge. I think the person I was like 2016, worrying about what I'm going to do, you know, when I grow up, even though it was 23, 24 years old, you always think about like, oh, when do I grow up and I'm like 30 or 40, what am I going to do? You know, what am I going to be? And you always have that like in your head of like, you know, like, what the fuck am I going to do? Like, who am I going to be? Whereas it's taken now to go through that period of change. And yes, I'm not going to sit here and say like I know where I'm going to be in 10, 15, 20 years time, but like I'm just happy with what I'm doing right now, and I really can't see past that. You know, I'm just looking to be a better version of myself and a better coach, and like just learn my craft and like help as many people as possible in whatever chapter of their journey that they're on, and help them just become a better person, like stronger, happier, healthier, fitter. Just can't tell. There he is, being an asshole.
Yeah, so funny. Thanks,
but yeah, that's like for me, it's just being present and not worrying too much about that stuff, because again, like, you know, probably the same, like we have like people that can, you know, people die, you know, we lose people day in day out, and it helps us to kind of like reflect and think, you know what, like, you know, you could die tomorrow, you could crash your car. Like I just got news there this morning that a really good friend used to work with those flicks, like died like on the weekend there, and I'm like, holy shit. Like I used to work in the gym, and it does make you stop and go like, Jesus Christ, like, you know, you could just live every day, you know, and just enjoy it, rather than worrying about like the what ifs and worrying about the future, which we don't really have that much control over. To an extent, yes, we can plan and strategize and you can paint a good picture of going forward, but like just kind of worry about what's happening right now. I think for me, that's been a big difference, is just learning to live now and not worry and get anxiety about certain things. And that's one thing like where I understand anxiety is a big thing at the minute with a lot of people, but it's something like luckily that I've never kind of, I wouldn't say never, but I haven't massively like dealt with it or had to like suffer with it to an extent, like even when it was COVID, because a lot of people obviously then was massive for anxiety and people stressing out over what does the future hold? Whereas I just kind of like had to stop and be like, right, this is what I can control. There's still people that are working. I can still gain an income. I can still work. I can still help people, whether it be through a different platform like Zoom. But through teamwork and through the guys in the gym here, like we were good, we were fine. And I actually enjoyed lockdown. That was awesome. Had a great time.
Yeah. And it's again, it's not failure, it's feedback. It's like good can come from what other people might perceive as difficult. So it's always there for us to learn from. Life is to be experienced, not to be kind of hidden from or nervous about or worried about. It's just to experience and open to it. So how would you describe heroes? What kind of qualities do you think make people heroes?
So yeah, this is cool. I wrote this down. So I think self-belief is a huge one. So I just having, as I said before, like I've spoke about this a few times now, is like having the evidence that you're good enough and using that to, like, if you have an idea or you have a plan that you want to commit to, then having that belief self-belief is huge. And it can be the crux for a lot of people of they can have a great idea. And like a lot of people say, like the best ideas are in the grave, because that's, people don't act on them. So I think having the belief to have an idea, go for it. If you don't achieve it, like, again, use that feedback of like, okay, like I didn't get that. Like, what could I have done better? And then if it does go well, like use that evidence to keep moving forward. I think that's huge. Second one would be like persistence in the face of adversity. Is a big one. So, just learning to, if you come up with things that could potentially drag you down, it's just doing even like the minimum effort required, like the minimum effective dose. And that is persistence, like don't put yourself too high up. Like any amount of effort is effort in my opinion, even if it's 1%, even if it's 100%, like effort's effort. So I think it's always kind of pushing forward again, despite things like, we have, say, COVID's still a thing. Obviously the whole energy thing at the minute, like the crisis there, can be something that can drag people back and resort to comfort and scarcity. And I think change that mindset to like, that, we're going to be okay, and having that abundance kind of mindset is very important. And that's something for me as well. Like, even when it comes to like income, it's easy to go like, there's no clients out there. Everyone's keeping their money. No one's spending their money. It's bullshit. It's absolute bullshit. People are, there's a lot of people that, yes, are struggling, but then there's a lot of people that are actually doing very well as well. So I think it's understanding this, and persistence is huge. Again, it's massive. There's going to be anyone that starts a program, they start a new job, like if they expect that they're going to do a 12-week program or start the gym, there's going to be no little speed bumps along the way, or there's going to be no, shit's not going to hit the fan in week 3, week 4, week 5, then, they're very naive. And I like to make that kind of known to someone that, like, if you want this end goal, you've got to understand that there's going to be stuff that comes up here that you're going to have to deal with. And if it does happen, here's what we do. Here's the minimal effective dose. Here's what we can just do if you have a shit week, if boss isn't being an asshole, if again, if someone dies, which is a horrible thing, it's okay. Like, take the time you need, but let's think about the person you want to become at the end of this thing, and using that kind of, I wrote it here as well. So I think the next question is thinking of, I got this from James Clear, like Atomic Habits, of that identity based approach of like, who is it actually want to become? Like, if me, Gareth Molloy, want to become a coach who is successful, who kind of, sticks to the barbell, kettlebell, body weight kind of when it comes to things, gets people amazing results, has a decent income, can live like by these certain standards, like what habits does he have to do? What like values does he have? And then me in 2016, 17, like, there's obviously that gap, and it was just kind of like figuring out these habits and routines which I got from other successful coaches in the industry, where I go like, okay, they're doing that every day, I should probably do that as well. That's pretty good. And then just kind of slid it into my routine. Whereas again, there's probably still some things I'm not doing on a daily basis, but I think for people moving forward, it's like figure out the person that you want to be, like, and then what kind of habits, attitudes, beliefs does that future you have, and then just start to instill them as soon as possible. It doesn't have to be all in one go. It can be one thing at a time. It can be just waking up at the same time every day. It can be something as simple as that. It could be going to bed at the same time every day, having that like nighttime routine. So then you get a bit more effective work done during the day. That was huge for me. That's something, again, like when I speak to any client, before we start anything, it's like, right, who do you actually want to become? Like, what does the future you look like? What habits, attitudes, beliefs do you want to have? And what do you have right now? And then it's like, I think the same as your kind of program, we'll plug it, is like, what's in the gap? And then it's just kind of filling that gap with the change, shall you say, which can take time, but it's important to think about.
You prepared, Gareth, for this, and I want to make sure anything else that you had kind of prepped or wanted to kind of get across, you get to share.
What did I put? I think that's all I wrote. I know you had said about like kind of asking like any kind of questions at the end. And I think like one thing, again, obviously you said about the future there, but again, I think like the future for me, if you were to say like, what's next, or what's coming up, shall we say, like I would definitely say, obviously I've got the World Championships coming up with kettlebell sport. Like I'm praying that I get gold. That's obviously what we're training for. We don't train for second, we train to win, So myself, Finbar, and the rest of the guys representing Ireland are all going there to win. So it's gonna be tough, but I'm buzzing for it. I'm so excited. It's just to compete in another country, like, and be an athlete representing Ireland is fucking sick. So it's cool. It's very, very cool. So that's all I'm thinking about. And then I've got skiing. I'm going skiing into Andorra in December for Christmas Day. Nice. So my birthday, Christmas Day is my 30th.
Oh,
Christmas Day.
And Santa knows where you are, no matter where you are in the world, Gareth.
Oh,
so
yeah,
no doubt you get a present, right?
He knows I'll be in Andorra. Climbing on top of the slope to get my presents. So I'm excited for that. Like, just winning this World Championships, hopefully, and then skiing, and then New Year. Obviously, everyone has great plans for the new year. So hopefully we as a gym and No Limits, we're doing really well at the minute. We've got great momentum leading into Christmas here with our like Santa Shred program, and then into next year again we'll be reflecting on the process of that, and then just becoming bigger and better. I think we're always seeking growth, which is awesome. And again, the environment that we have here is epic because everyone's in the same wavelength of the only way is up, shall we say. But mate, that's it for the next few months anyway. It's more hands on deck.
Amazing. I'm really conscious of time. I promised you that I would track. We've tracked perfectly.
Yeah.
Thank you for taking time. Thank you for sharing your journey. Thank you for being honest as well, and also just giving it the work, as in being thoughtful about it, not just reactive. Some people prefer to just show up. Mm-hmm. Thank you for taking the time.
Yeah, no, mate, I honestly appreciate it. I appreciate the opportunity to have me on here. Like it's cool to do this sort of stuff and, be on podcasts. And like I said before, like, before we started, was sitting down and actually reflecting on over the years is something that like no one does because everyone's just 100 miles an hour in one direction. So sitting down to be like, holy shit, like, it's been pretty cool. Because sometimes from 2016 and 2022 can be like that. And it can, looking back, going, holy fuck, I've been in this industry like nearly 7 years. So it's like, wow, it's been a ride. But looking back at the, as you say, the ebbs and the flows of it has been pretty cool. So it's something I'll definitely stick with. And like looking back yesterday has given me like a little bit of a boost moving into the next few weeks. So yeah, I massively appreciate it. Awesome.
Nice. Best of luck in the worlds. And thanks for coming on the podcast.
Thank you. Appreciate it.